Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. A lot's happened since I've made one of these, and as I'm sure you know, there's been a bit of drought in videos and streams, but with incredibly good reason. So I'd like to take the time to explain this journey from the beginning, and tell you what lies ahead for myself personally, as well as the channel. I know a lot of you have asked for more information about how a relatively healthy 25-year-old ends up needing a kidney, so I thought you would be willing to let me indulge you and myself for the next few minutes as to how. I was born with a birth defect. The ureters that connect from your kidneys to your bladder, mine caused a urinary reflux, which did an insane amount of damage to my kidneys as a child. They were scarred, deformed, calcified. We didn't know about this damage or the cause of the various infections I had as a kid until I was 6 years old. I had a bilateral reimplantation of said ureters, and was told at a very young age that I would have kidney problems for the rest of my life, but I should be okay. I had 18 years of relatively good health, although I can guarantee you, but not promise you with any evidence, that I probably did a good job stunting my height just a tad. A small price to pay for a relatively healthy youth. So when I moved in December of 2019 back to the ancestral roots of my family in rural Texas, that's when things began to take a turn for the worst. Gout was the first sign, not something I would wish upon anybody, but in early 2020 I started to notice odd stomach and vomiting issues, which would later be determined to be uremia. Literally a year ago to this day, I was admitted to the hospital and was told that the inevitable had finally come. I was ESRD, known as end-stage renal disease. Keep in mind, at the time, I was only 24, I had just got settled into a new job, thankfully insured, but it was something I knew was coming. I had known for years. It had kept me out of my dreams of pursuing a career in the military and following my father's footsteps, something that even to this day still pains me because I was raised with that deep sense of service and patriotism, perhaps a consequence of growing up with a military family in the George W. Bush era. But from there, life made a drastic change. I had a CVC permacath put into my chest, a central line known by some, in order to do hemodialysis. They keep you in the hospital until they can ship you off to a DaVita dialysis center nearby. I was there for a few days, adjusting to this lengthy 4-hour process and puking my guts out until the very last day. The treatments worked, and by the time that my dad came to took me home, I felt relatively normal. It became a common trend that my father would see me at my best medically, and my poor mother to see me at the worst. But it was a year of change. Fluid intake restrictions, an incredibly restrictive diet of low potassium, phosphorus, and sodium, pills to absorb excess phosphorus known as a binder to prevent skin irritation and having the bones of a 90-year-old. It was a rough adjustment, constant meetings with dietitians, social workers. The one whom I was assigned was this fat middle-aged woman who just went, yeah, all the time, and nephrologists. I got the onboarding process started to get a transplant and be on the list, and all the required workups behind it. From there, life transitioned to that dreaded phrase that we've heard even now in the time of COVID, a new normal. You get used to it eventually. For the remainder of 2020, I was on hemodialysis, going to a center 3 times a week. Thankfully, however, I had a lovely older nurse from New York City that flirted way too much with me, although she definitely made things more tolerable in that freezing environment. As we tried to find a solution to do dialysis from home, and to get my life back, so to speak, was the next step. Come August, we tried for the first time a surgery to do dialysis at home, known as peritoneal dialysis. Needless to say, it did not go so well. I had gotten some kind of post-op infection, or perhaps just a bad case of appendicitis at the wrong time, and I was hospitalized for 2 weeks in September. They removed the catheter along with my appendix, and we didn't try the workup again for a transplant until November, where I had gotten on the list and started doing peritoneal dialysis training. Come January, I was doing things at home, getting better, learning to adjust with this long tube sticking out of my abdomen after weeks of training. Looking back, I can only say that I know for sure I spent a ridiculous amount of money on those shower shield and shower guard things to keep the chest catheter dry during showers. It's incredibly awkward. I wouldn't get it removed until March of this year, where I would have had it now for 9 months. Trust me, that was a baby I was very happy to have out of me. You get into some routine with these things, and if you've been with the channel for some time, that you'll know at the end of February I got a call for a transplant. It was in block, meaning pediatric kidneys where you get 2 instead of 1, and then they'll grow into 2 full-sized adult ones eventually. The dream transplant. Rushing into the middle of the night to a Dallas hospital, which is about 90 minutes from where I live, it didn't work out, as the kidneys were damaged during transport. You can hear more about this story on one of my Monday morning musings videos, Don't Be Discouraged, which I'll link in the description. Fast forward now to the 18th of this month. I'm putting in my notice at work requesting to expedite the offboarding process because I had no desire to stay for 2 weeks at a job I couldn't stand, not to mention I had just taken on a new job with a much better starting salary and benefits. And that's when the call came in. I left immediately and explained my situation to my outgoing employer what the deal was, and I spent 45 minutes on my way to work to the house to meet my dad to pack a bag, crying and praying the entire time that this would be the one. Yet once I got to the house, packed my bag, and got into my dad's car on the way to the hospital, I was hit with a serene sense of calm. I already knew what to expect. I have already done this before. I knew what was coming. A lot of dreaded waiting as you hope to hear the good news. The surgeon has reviewed the organs, and they are ready to go for surgery. We get to the hospital. The room's already set up for us. We get there maybe around 1:45 in the afternoon. We get the most wonderful but humbling news around 8 o'clock at night, that the surgery was greenlit to proceed. It was surreal. Not to say that my prayers haven't been answered, they were, obviously, but just an acknowledgement that life was going to change for the better. It was on top of the fact that I had just accepted a new job with a decent salary and benefits as well. The fact now that I'm recovering and being told that I can't drive, that they still want to keep me on board and work remotely until I'm able-bodied enough to drive to work. If you want to have your faith in God restored for a moment, maybe that little tidbit will help just a little. From there, the surgery took place. They took the PD dialysis catheter out of me, and they put the pediatric kidney inside of me. I think that part weighs on me the most. Someone's child is gone, but 2 people have got a new lease on life because of him or her. There's some confidentiality stuff involved with contacting the donor family. You have to write and reach out, and then some intermediary contacts the family, and then they choose if they want to reply back or proceed. I'm drafting the letter to them right now. I'm not sure how it'll look when it's finished. I know at this point I'm more or less all over the place, so I'll try to wrap up the medical aspect of this real talk. I was in on Monday, discharged on Saturday. I'm now on a ton of medications, anti-rejection, anti-infection, antifungals, blood pressure, blood thinners, all to keep the kidney functioning properly. I go to the bathroom more or less on the hour every hour. I went from being a 25-year-old to an 85-year-old overnight, it seems. I'm told, however, that'll slow down in a month or so as the kidney continues to grow and function normally. Words cannot express to you all how humbled and grateful I am for your support, both financially and spiritually. Between the prayers, the donations on Subscribestar, and the general words of encouragement, I am truly blessed. If you could extend your prayers now to my family, who at the time are my caregivers during my recovery, I would ask you to do so. I've been given a new lease on life, and I fully intend to commit with it to hard work, service, and faith. I wouldn't have been given this chance if I didn't have purpose or reason from the good Lord above. But with all that being said, here's looking towards the future for both myself and the channel. I'll start my new job full-time on July 6th after the holiday. It'll be remote for the first few weeks as I get caught up on training until I'm given the green light to drive. However, this Saturday, on the 3rd of July, I'll be doing a little community celebration stream and returning to catching up on the news and such. I will hopefully have some guests from the community to answer any questions that y'all might have. After the 4th of the July weekend, I plan to be doing more Sunday streams. And audience suggestions are always appreciated on what foreign affairs and international relations topics y'all want to see covered. Scripted content is back in the works. I'm currently working on a new one right now about streaming services and gulags here in the United States. I hope in the meantime, as I get myself back to normal, that this real talk might answer any questions you've had about what's going on, and what I'm doing to get back on a regular upload and streaming schedule. Also during this time, I'm working on putting together an Odyssey account along with finalizing the merch store. There'll be plenty of Farog-related things for you all to enjoy. With this borrowed time I was given with the transplant, I only have the desire to be better, both for myself, my future family, community, and more. Words cannot express my gratitude and gratefulness. Know that I'm back in the saddle, and that I'll see you all in the next video. Be prudent, everybody.